Dearest viewers, this is a story of acceptance. It is a story about accepting yourself for who you are and building your power from that different thing in your person. Listen very carefully because at the end, I will ask you what lessons you have learned from the story. My name is Star and I'm yours truly, a content writer and storyteller. Bisola had always been different. In the small village of Ayede, surrounded with long hills and dense forests, she was known as the girl with the hair that defied nature. While other girls braided their hair to make it grow, Bisola's hair seemed to take on a life of its own. Thick, long, and almost too radiant to belong to someone so young. The village women whispered in awe, while the men stared in admiration. Her grandmother, Mama Adiola, would sit her down under the baobab tree every evening to weave stories of their ancestors. She told her about the ancient spirit of Omieri, the river goddess, who once blessed their family with beauty and strength. Your hair, my child, carries the blessing of our ancestors, Mama Adiola would say. But beware, beauty can be a gift and a curse. Bisola was too young to attach any meaning to those words. For all she knew, she was the girl with the prettiest hair, and that was just enough for her. Bisola, though proud of her hair, had learned humility. She smiled at compliments but never boasted. Yet, deep within her, she knew there was something mystical about her hair, something more than just genetics. In Ayede, myths were woven into everyday life. The old women often spoke of the hair-growing rituals, practices passed down through generations. One of the most whispered myths was about a special herb called Oriwa, believed to be the source of miraculous hair growth. It was said that whoever possessed this herb could command the attention of the gods, but they would also attract jealousy and resentment. As Bisola blossomed into womanhood, her hair became a source of both admiration and envy. Mothers would pinch their daughter's arm and scold them, wishing they could have hair like Bisola. But no one understood that her beauty came at a cost. I can see you twitching to hear more. Well, here it comes. Years later, Bisola found herself far from the familiar sights and sounds of Ayede. She had moved to the busy city of Lagos in Nigeria, where skyscrapers towered over the streets, and the noise of car horns replaced the chirping of crickets. Lagos is a city so hot and busy that there can never be a moment of silence. Inhabitants always seem to never sleep. The city is always alive and only the strong-hearted can survive there. She had been accepted into the prestigious University of Lagos, and life in the city was supposed to be exciting, but there was a sense of unease that she couldn't shake off. The attention her hair drew in Lagos was different from the admiration of her village. Here, people stared longer with a mixture of fascination and judgment. It did not take long for rumors to spread in her university. Whispers that Bisola's hair was too African, too traditional, and in some circles unnatural. Amid this, Bisola found solace in one person, Tunde, her classmate with a smile that could melt even the toughest hearts. Tunde wasn't like the others who stared at her hair with questioning eyes. He admired her for more than that. Her smooth dark skin, her quiet confidence, her intelligence. To him, her hair was just part of her allure. But where there is love, there is often rivalry. Tunde's ex-girlfriend Caitlin was everything Bisola wasn't. A tall, slender American exchange student with flowing blonde hair and a pale skin. Caitlin couldn't stand the sight of Tunde's new love interest. The tension between them simmered until it boiled over. As days turned into weeks, Caitlin's jealousy became palpable. She couldn't understand why Tunde, the man who once adored her, was now so captivated by Bisola. To her it was absurd. How could someone so traditional, so different, outshine her in every way? Caitlin decided to confront Bisola. One afternoon, after a long day of classes, she cornered Bisola in the campus library. You think you can just come here and steal Tunde? Kathleen's voice was laced with anger, her blue eyes narrowing. "You're nothing special, it's just your ridiculous hair." Bisola's heart pounded. She had never been one for confrontation, especially not with someone so openly hostile. But something in her snapped. Tunde is not a prize to be won. And my hair? It's part of who I am, and I'm proud of it. Bisola replied faintly, but her hands shook slightly. "You'll regret this," Kathleen sneered. "You don't know who you're dealing with." That night, as Bisola lay in bed, her grandmother's voice echoed in her mind. Beauty can be a gift and a curse, and she could feel a shift in the air, like a calm before a storm. Back in Ayede, the villagers are known to be very mindful of themselves, to the extent that they can feel it in their guts if something goes wrong with any of them. Mama Adiola sensed something was wrong. She had always believed that Bisola's hair was a blessing from Omieri, but now she felt the weight of an ancient curse creeping in. It was as though the Oriwa hair, which was woven into their family's lineage, had been reawakened, and it came with danger. Late one night, Mama Adiola gathered the village elders under the sacred baobab tree. They chanted prayers to Omieri, hoping to protect Bisola from whatever dark force was stirring. But the elders knew that once the power of Oriwa was unleashed, it was nearly impossible to stop. Meanwhile in Lagos, Bisola began noticing strange things happening. One morning, she woke up to find her hair had grown several inches overnight, longer and thicker than it had ever been. While her hair had always been her pride, this felt unnatural even for her. She tried to cut it, but the strands seemed to resist, as if they were alive. Rumors spread quickly among her classmates. Some said she was practicing witchcraft. Others believed she had discovered some secret African portion for her growth. The more people talked, the more isolated Bisola became, until she found herself alone in her room, staring at the mirror, unsure of who or what she was becoming. Tunde, oblivious to the full extent of the brewing tension, remained drawn to Bisola. He admired her strength, her beauty, and the mystery surrounding her. But he wasn't blind to the rumors. Kathleen had made sure of that, spreading lies about Bisola's witchy ways and warning him to stay away. One evening, Tunde found Bisola sitting alone by the campus lake, her hair cascading over her shoulders like a waterfall of darkness. He could tell something was troubling her. "Bisola, talk to me," he said softly next to her. "What's going on?" Bisola hesitated. How could she explain what was happening to her without sounding crazy? The myths of her village, the curse of Orewa, the strange growth of her hair. It all seemed too fantastical for the world of Lagos, where people believed in science and logic, not spirits and curses. But before she could answer, the wind began to pick up, swirling around them violently. Tunde stood up startled. "What's happening?" I don't know," Bisola stammered. She could feel something stirring inside her, as if her hair was reacting to the wind itself. The air around them grew thick, almost suffocating. And then out of nowhere, a voice, low and ominous, whispered in Bisola's ear. "Choose wisely, child. The path you take will determine your fate." Kathleen wasn't done with her schemes. She had spent weeks plotting, her jealousy festering into something darker. Through her connections, she uncovered stories about Bisola's village and the ancient myths surrounding the Orewa herb. To her, it was clear. Bisola was using some kind of forbidden magic to attract Tunde, and Kathleen wasn't going to let her get away with it. Late one evening, Kathleen approached Bisola in the dormitory hallway. Her eyes gleamed with malevolent intent. "I know what you are," Kathleen hissed, a smirk playing on her lips. "You think you can hide behind your little village secrets, but I'm going to expose you for the fraud you are. And when I do, Tunde will leave you." Bisola stood tall, refusing to back down. I don't need to hide. What I am is no fraud. It is part of me, just like your anger is part of you. You regret this, Kathleen spat. Mark my words. And with that, Kathleen stormed off, but not before leaving Bisola with an ominous threat. If you don't stay away from Tunde, I'll make sure you lose everything. In the following days, Bisola's world seemed to spiral out of control. Her hair continued to grow, wild and untamed, almost as if it had a mind of its own. The whispers of witchcraft grew louder, and Bisola knew that soon Kathleen would make good on her threat. Tunde, caught in the middle, tried to stand by Bisola, but the pressure from his friends and the fear of Kathleen's manipulations made him question everything. He found himself at a crossroads. Should he believe in the girl he had come to love, or should he protect himself from the storm that seemed to surround her? One night, as Bisola sat in her room, the ancient's voice came to her again. Your hair is your strength, but it is also your burden. You must decide who you truly are. The night of the full moon brought with it an air of finality. The wind whispered through the trees outside Bisola's dorm, and she felt the weight of an ancient power in her hair. She was no longer the simple village girl with a strange gift. She was now tied to something greater, something far older than herself. That evening, Mama Adiola called from the village. My child, the time has come, she said gravely. You must return to Ayede. The spirits have spoken. Oriwa has awoken fully in you, and you must seek the guidance of Omieri. Bisola was torn. She knew the power of Oriwa could destroy her if left unchecked. But how could she leave Lagos now, with Kathleen's threats hanging over her head and her relationship with Tunde on the line? Grandma, I don't know what to do. I can't just run away. You are not running, child. You are returning to your roots. Only there can you find the answer. Trust the river goddess. That night, Bisola made her decision. She packed a small bag and left for Ayede. She would face whatever ancient power lay within her and seek the wisdom of Omieri before it consumed her completely. The journey back to Oyede felt like stepping into another world. The noise and chaos of Lagos faded into the background as she arrived at the village, where the air was thick with the scent of the earth and the sound of the river flowing nearby. Mama Adiola and the village elders awaited her by the baobab tree, the same place where she had once sat as a child, listening to stories of their ancestors. You must perform the ritual, Mama Adiola said, her voice steady. It is the only way to control the power within your hair. But be warned, once you begin, there is no turning back. Bisola nodded, knowing what was at stake. She knelt by the river bank as the elders began to chant. They burned herbs and sprinkled water from the river over her hair. As the smoke rose and the chants grew louder, Bisola felt a surge of energy rushing through her, stronger than anything she had ever felt before. Her hair began to glow faintly, as though touched by moonlight, and she could feel it, her connection to Oriwa, to the river goddess, to the ancestors. For the first time, she understood the true power she held, but with that power came a choice. She could either embrace it fully, risking the wrath of those who would never understand, or she could choose to live a simpler life, free from the curse of Oriwa. Back in Lagos, Kathleen was growing impatient. She had expected Bisola to crumble under the weight of her threats, but instead, Bisola had disappeared. Desperate to reclaim Tunde, Kathleen concocted a final plan. She would expose Bisola as a fraud in front of the entire university. She gathered students, spreading lies about Bisola's use of witchcraft to manipulate people. When Bisola returned to campus a few days later, she was met with stares and whispers. Kathleen had succeeded in turning almost everyone against her. That afternoon, a campus meeting was called. Kathleen, confident in her victory, stood before the crowd, her voice dripping with malice. "Bisola has been deceiving us all," she declared. "She uses ancient African magic to grow her hair and manipulate people. She's dangerous, and we shouldn't allow her to continue." The crowd murmured in agreement. But before Kathleen could continue, Bisola stepped forward, her hair still glowing faintly from the ritual, cascaded down her back, a visible testament to her connection with the ancient forces. "Yes, my hair is different," Bisola said, her voice calm but powerful. "It is tied to my ancestors, to the river goddess, and to the Oriwa. But that does not make me dangerous. My hair is a part of me, just as your anger, Kathleen, is a part of you. And I will not apologize for being who I am." Tunde, who had been standing quietly in the crowd, stepped forward. "I don't care about the rumors," he said, locking eyes with Bisola. "I care about you, and nothing Kathleen says will change that." Kathleen, seeing her plan unraveling, lashed out one last time. "You will regret this, Tunde. You will regret ever choosing her over me." But the crowd had grown silent, their murmurs of suspicion replaced by awe. Bisola's calm strength, her refusal to be ashamed, had won them over. And one by one, the students began to turn their backs on Kathleen, leaving her standing alone. In the weeks that followed, life returned to normal, or at least as normal as it could be for Bisola. The rumors about her hair died down, and people began to accept her for who she was. Kathleen, humiliated and defeated, quietly left the university, her threats now a distant memory. And as for Bisola and Tunde, their relationship blossomed, built on trust, respect, and an understanding of the power that lay within her. Bisola no longer felt the need to hide her connection to Orewa, or to the ancient forces that had shaped her. She embraced her identity fully, knowing that her hair was not just a symbol of beauty, but of strength and resilience. And as she stood by the riverbank one evening, her hair blowing gently in the wind, Bisola smiled. She had chosen a path, one that honored her ancestors, her culture, and her true self. In the end, it wasn't just about the hair. It was about the courage to embrace who she truly was, no matter what others thought. Years later, Bisola returned to Ayede, now a woman of wisdom and grace. The village welcomed her back, not just as the girl with the beautiful hair, but as a symbol of resilience and pride in one's heritage. She had become a beacon of hope for those who struggled with their identity, showing them that true beauty lay not in conforming to others' expectations, but in embracing one's uniqueness. The legend of Oriwa lived on through Bisola, a reminder that sometimes the things we consider burdens can become our greatest strengths if we have the courage to carry them. Thank you for staying and having a moment with me. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't, like and drop your comments in the comment section. I'll be waiting for you there. See you in my next video. Bye.